Today I took one trade on M&Q. When I go over why I took the trade and my reasoning for being bullish today. So this is the trade I took today. I took this trade at 10:13, I believe. Um, so the reasoning I entered on this trade is because we created an order block here. So we had these two down close candles here, and we traded above them, creating an order block. So now why didn't I enter up above here? The reason I didn't enter up above here is because I was having some problems with entering into my TradeOvert account, and I ended up entering on this trade down here because we still have a valid setup, and I entered pretty much like at the low of the candle, and I took the trade up all the way to my first TP, and then I got stopped out around here. So this is proof of my trade. This is just a screenshot I took on my phone while I was out and about, because I'm not going to watch this sitting on my computer. Like, my day is pretty much done after I put my first trade, and that's it. And yeah, entered in down here, took my first TP here, and then ended up getting stopped out. Well, not stopped out, but I ended up closing my trade here as I was above the amount I can make in a day. So the trade ended up going for about, I know this is pretty ridiculous, but like from entry to up here was like 17R, which is kind of crazy, but I only sized for about just above 50% of my size because I had entered in on a price I was not very comfortable with, to say. It felt like I was taking a lower quality setup, but then I went over ChatGPT and talked to it. It basically says like, yes, my setup is still valid, so I should have put my full risk here, and this trade would have amounted for a little bit more, but that doesn't matter. The thing is, I followed my rules, entered on A plus setup. Granted, I did not get my entry at the time that I wanted to, but I still entered on my winning trade. My following my plan. So yeah, that's what's important that happened. So reasoning for being bullish today. So coming in today, the first thing I did was I looked at the weekly time frame, right? So here, if we look at the weekly time frame, we can see that we are coming into a bullish weekly for value gap here. But previous week we've already come into this, so take I wasn't gonna use this information for anything. And we had the same thing on ES. If we go on the weekly here too, you can see that we're coming into this weekly fair value gap up here, right? But then we can use that because we've already used it, and gaps are only used once. After that, we want to go investigate in the lower time frames. So um, I looked on the daily. Did we have anything on the daily? On the daily, we swept this low here on NQ, and then if we go on ES, I believe we had not, right? We just traded down below, no real sweeps. And then if we look on the 12-hour here, the last thing I saw on the 12-hour on ES was we traded into this 12-hour for value gap there, and we closed bullishly, and we did that last AM. So that means I was looking for shorts until we hit this liquidity point or we get into a fair value gap. So where was the fair value gap? The fair value gap I was keying off, right, was this 12-hour fair value gap here that we created on August the 3rd. So we were bearish on ES until we touched this gap here or swept that low, and both things happened. We traded into this 12-hour for value gap here, and we also swept this low here. Hence, the bias had changed, so we were bearish, now we're bullish. So where was I bullish till, right? Since we got into this 12-hour here, I was looking for us to trade either into some type of 4-hour liquidity, somewhere along this range here, some type of discount PD array, or trade into some type of 12-hour liquidity. So that would have been this buy side liquidity up here, or on ES coming back into this 12-hour gap here, and we're just shy of it there. and we didn't hit that there, or some type of 4-hour liquidity. That's what I was looking for. So any 4-hour highs, but we didn't have anything there. And then we look at ES or NQ for some 4-hour high. So this is what I was looking for us to come to. Either this 4-hour gap here, retest it, or come all the way up to this 12-hour high. But it looks like we didn't have enough bullish momentum to do that today since it's Monday. And yeah, that was pretty much it for me today. So, anything I could have done better today? I think what I could have done better today is still have the same level of conviction in this trade, because I think what happened is I was like, oh, I would have entered on this trade here at 9:55, and now I'm suffering almost 90% drawdown. This is a losing trade. Let me put a little bit of risk so I don't feel the full extent of the loss, which is just backwards thinking, because like this is a trade I would have taken. This is a trade I should have taken, and I got my circumstances made me lucky enough that I could enter this trade with higher risk, and still have the same amount of stop loss, pretty much like have the same risk, but we'll have more contracts, increasing my risk to rewards pretty much. And I think I should have just entered on the trade and still followed my plan that way, because regardless of when I enter on this trade here, it is still a A plus uh, entry, and my invalidation point still sticks, right? So one other thing I do want to touch on is that um, yes, we did have the same thing. We had a sweep on ES here, here, and then we traded into a fair value gap. So one thing I have been noticing is that sweeps versus fair value gaps tend to create stronger momentum, because if we look at the 1 minute time frame here, it's continuously trending. And then if we go and look at ES here, I mean, it's not really the best, right? My entry would have been here, which would have been stopped out. And then even another entry here, which would have been stopped out again. And then only on the third try would it have worked and actually given more R than NQ. But with all of this, like it's just low volume, low liquidity type stuff. So yeah, to recap on the day, today was good. We followed our plan and it worked out today. And that's everything for me. Good luck and good trading.